So cute. Okay.
Okay. In the late 1970s, one of our founders, Jim Rockefeller, he became interested in acquiring a 4T snowmobile as a way to showcase the evolution in transportation history. Rockefeller got his chance to acquire the 4T snowmobile once it was entered in the 1978 New England Auto Auction. And it was purchased by a man named Robert Burroughs. In July of 1978, Rockefeller reached out to Robert Burroughs and asked him if he'd be willing to lend the snowmobile to the museum so he could showcase it. Burroughs agreed, and since August 1978, it started being exhibited here on a loan that lasted until December of 1985. At which point it was converted from a loan into a donation to the museum, and it's been here ever since.
Yay.
Nice,
Did you
thanks,
want to read
Jonah.
that other paragraph you have?
Okay. This is on some background history. A man named Virgil D. White innovated Ford vehicles and trucks by incorporating snow equipment to the vehicle in order to drive on the snow. And this was prior to when snowplows were invented. So this innovation was created in order to maneuver through rural snow roads. It was officially put on the market in 1922 after perfecting the mechanical details for snow driving. And the first snowmobile race occurred in January of 1926. These early snowmobiles were very popular in the 1920s, but as I mentioned, once the snowplow was invented, commercial and general use for these sort of plummeted. And sort of that's how they sort of fell out of the mainstream.
There you go. So now we know some of the official history of the car. I'm going to talk about what they did with snowmobiles, why it's here, what we've done with it since it's been here. Like Jonah has said, the snowplow is the first horse-drawn. We actually have one over in Benner Lane, and hasn't been on display in a long, long time, horse-drawn snowplow. But we think that snowmobiles only date back, back into the late 50s or so. People are very surprised when they see this, that a snowmobile existed back in the 20s. At that time, your rural roads were somewhat impassable by motorized transportation. You had sleighs. They were very picturesque, but probably somewhat cold and slow. The people that used these, for the most part, were doctors, who had to go house to house, post offices, which had to deliver the mail, obviously, and general stores would have it. Maybe a town would have one. These were built and advertised that you could quickly convert your Model T or even other brands of cars into a snowmobile. That was really not the case. That was an advertising ploy. So a lot of people, considering how cheap that you could get a Model T for, just converted one and kept it in the barn through the summer, spring, fall, and then when snow fell, they'd start using these and then pack them back in the barn ever since. There's quite a few of them out there. There's a chapter of the Model T Ford Club devoted to snowmobiles, Model T snowmobiles, and they usually get 15 to 20 snowmobiles to show up and run them. And there's a lot of them out there that don't run. You could buy the kit in various forms. This one, in kind of typical Jim Rockefeller, he's always been lucky to find the right thing. This one is probably top of the line as far as Virgil White snowmobile conversion kits, in that it's equipped with a TT truck worm gear rear end, which is much stronger than the car rear end. These were advertised that you could just take your car and make them in that. I'm sure that they were terribly weak in the snow. Like I said, this is one of the best ones you could get. The TT truck rear end is geared to the point where top speed is either 17 miles an hour for an early one or about 22 miles an hour for a later one. Gives you a good ratio. It also has what's called a Wofford transmission in it. I don't think the camera's going to see it, but there's another handle on the floor there, another shift handle, and that's a 3-speed Wofford. You get an underdrive, normal, and overdrive. So depending on your road, if you're out on the ice and there's very little holding you back, you could run it in overdrive, I'm sure, which probably with the rear end geared as it is might give you a top speed of 25, somewhere around there. But in normal, intermediate, it's just the Model T gearing, and then in low, the engine turns a lot faster, giving you a lot more torque to the rear end, but your top speed's probably somewhere around 5 to 10 miles an hour. It's a standard 20 horsepower Model T engine. This car was a pickup truck to begin with, or a roadster, and this is a Model T pickup bed on the back, and your battery box is right here. One thing I'd like to find for this car there are Snowmobile step plates, and they're cast right in at Snowmobile. I'd like to find a set of those because this car is missing those. You didn't have to have them. They were accessory. And the little spotlight was handy if you're a postmaster or that convenience store guy can find the mailbox. You're not looking very correct there. If there's any questions, jump in.
I have a question.
Yeah.
When they talked about that, oh, it's an easy convert to a car, how do you do that with those 2 back wheels? Like, does one set come off? Are they both hooked into the drivetrain? Like, how do you do it?
Basically, the kit came with the front spindle arrangements and skis. You take off the front wheels with the spindles, and then you bolt these on. This is not easy to steer. You can make your tracks and the car will go where it wants to go. But before those tracks are made, it's really tough to steer. Another part of the kit was these tracks, and these are called the bogey wheels. Those are bogey wheels, and they're on a set of springs. And if you had a car, you could simply put the bogies under and wrap the tracks around. This one's a little more complicated in that this is basically a car chassis with the TT truck rear end under it, which means that they had to modify some stuff to get it under it. At that time, people would make out of a Model T anything they wanted. You know, you could make a tractor out of a Model T, buy a kit from Sears and build a tractor out of a Model T.
But does that second wheel, does that whole, does this one go away?
This?
Yeah, does that one whole comes apart? Oh.
Yeah, this one leaves.
Oh, okay,
That
okay.
one stays.
Okay.
And it's not connected into the power drive.
Right,
system.
that's what I thought.
It's
Okay.
connected by the Caterpillar truck.
Okay.
Right. And that axle is moved back a little bit. A standard Model T wheel would be right about here. With the TT truck rear end, it's moved back a little bit. Virgil White was not the only manufacturer of snowmobiles. There were some out in the Midwest. And so he didn't have the corner on the market, but he almost had the corner on the market in the Northeast. And they were a good kit. And you can still find parts for them. There's a guy that's making the entire kit brand new. Almost cost what a whole Model T would cost, but you can get them. So this one's been here a long time. A personal history is every winter we try to get it out at least once. Last couple of winters our snow plowing has been so efficient that the snow is gone by the time we get around to taking this out. But there's some good videos of it out in the, Toby and I had it out there, I don't know, 5 years ago maybe. Made some good videos. It does perform like it should. On pristine snow, you can get that 20 to 25 miles an hour out of it. I had it up in Millinocket once for an antique snowmobile meet. And what they meant by antique snowmobile meet were snowmobiles out of the 60s and 70s. So to show up with this is kind of a wow factor. Like I say, a lot of people didn't even realize that there were snowmobiles out there. But Virgil White, this is a snowmobile. That was the name of the company. So this is more than technically a snowmobile.
Did the conversion kit have any other creature features, side curtains, anything like that for occupants?
No, no. And I remember plowing snow in the Jeep I had when I was a kid, and it had doors, but you could take them right off. And when we went snow plowing to make some money as a kid, I took the doors off because if you had them on, you couldn't see where you were going, and snow would pack on the windows, and it's better if you could stick your head outside. So, one of those things. They were rugged. They were rugged. So. Anything else? Anything you think I missed?
The snow dance? Do your snow dance? Yeah. Because it would be great to see it
Yeah.
running.
Yeah. Well, speaking of snow dances, this was my flexible flyer as a kid, which was probably also the flexible flyer of my father. And even here, I think this says, oh, this is Lott's Brothers Dairy. I have JMK Dairy, because I was raised on a dairy farm. So a lot of that flotsam and jetsam made it this way, and I figured, well, it looks kind of winterish.
It does,
Yeah. Yeah, they were a good rig. If you ever get a chance to attend one of the Model T Ford Club of America's snowmobile meets, do that. It's interesting.
Where is it being held this year?
Probably New York State, more than likely. I haven't looked it up. I went to one that was in West Ossipee, where the kits were made. The original factory has been torn down. But the meat was the railroad tracks that went by the factory. The meat was there following the railroad tracks. So it was kind of good to stand on the ground where these were made. Yeah.
We took this to the Snow Bowl one year, and I remember Ethan and Jenna were driving around, and I couldn't find a parking spot because it was so crowded. I think it was from the toboggan race.
Yeah.
And they gave me a ride from the road up to the lift in that thing. I just threw my skis in the back. It was super fun. And yeah, it did great. Yeah.
Yeah. If we ever get that the dirt road built, then this would be very good on that in the winter. Yeah.
Thanks, Warren.
Certainly.
And Jonah.
And Jonah,
Jonah.
I'm sorry, Jonah. That
Yeah.
was excellent.
Jonah in particular. Yeah, again, if there's any questions on